So we're going to start a little bit differently today. Rather than lying down, we're going to be seated. So just a couple of things. You can sit in a cross-legged position if you feel like that's a comfortable way to sit for 5 minutes. Let's call it 5 minutes. If you prefer to kneel and have something so that you're not bending the knees too much underneath your bottom with the knees and heels at hip width distance, like a cushion or a pillow, that's also possible. So either of those positions. And if cross-legged is easier, with something underneath your bottom to get a little bit of elevation on the hips so the knees can lower, that's also an option. So whichever one of those that you choose, let me just have a look. Is anybody kneeling? I can't tell whether you're kneeling or not, Sue, but if you are kneeling, the hands are just resting on the thighs.
Cross-legged.
You're cross-legged, okay. I think everybody in that case is cross-legged. All right, so as we're all cross-legged, first turn the palms towards the ceiling, have the elbows casually bent and the wrists or forearms resting where they then fall naturally. And you can connect the index finger and the thumb. Now, for a moment, just press into the sit bones and feel like you're lifting your heart center and bringing the front heads of the shoulders back so the collarbones broaden. Then your chin slightly in, lengthen up from the sit bones through the crown of the head, back of the neck long. Now just take a little roll of the front heads of the shoulders back again and slide your shoulder blades down your back. And then you can softly close your eyes, or just bring the gaze soft, looking down the tip of the nose towards the floor. And now all of that action in lengthening up through the spine will probably have brought a little bit of tension into the body. So if you can feel like you're just relaxing your inner thighs and settling into that position without so much effort. Let the tissues of the inside of your mouth soften. And the jawbones release away from each other. Let your brow broaden and the skin around your eyes soften. And feel that you're drawing your gaze inwards, perhaps towards the center of the skull, halfway between the center of the eyebrows and the back of the head, and halfway between the tops of the ears. Bringing your full attention to your breath. Just observing the spontaneous breath arising and releasing. Now consciously allow your belly to soften and take a few breaths directed to the belly as you inhale, expanding the belly. As you exhale, just letting the belly soften back towards the spine without actively pulling it in. And then for a few breaths, feel like you're directing the breath towards the mid-side ribs and using the breath to expand the mid-side ribs out towards the side of the room, a sense of the mid-back of the body broadening at the same time. And then a few breaths with the feeling of drawing the air in all the way up to the top of the lungs, underneath the collarbones to the top of the chest. And with your exhale again, feel like you're letting the skin of the back slide down towards the heels. So you're using that inhale breath to lift and broaden the upper chest as you breathe all the way to the top of the lungs. Let the jaws stay relaxed, the skin inside the mouth soft. And then return to your spontaneous breath, just following a natural breath, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose. But then feel like you're opening the sinuses as you breathe. So as if taking in the scent of a flower. And just breathe however feels naturally at the moment, but still through the nose on your inhale and exhale breath. And just extend the legs for a moment and take a little cycle of the knees, bending one leg, straightening the other leg. And then come back to a cross-leg position, but with your opposite leg in front. Have your hands alongside the body for a moment as you press into the sit bones. Lift the chest again and broaden across the collarbones. Slide the skin of the back down. And then lift the arms, but keep the shoulder blades drawing down the back. Lengthen the crown of the head for the ceiling. Reach your middle fingertips out towards the side of the room. Feel again that you're breathing all the way up to the top of the lungs, underneath the collarbones, and expanding that top chest area with your inhale breath. And bring the hands to the floor in front of you, taking a little lean forwards. Doesn't have to be too far, but wherever feels comfortable. Let's take a little press of the hands into the floor and feel like you're trying to pull them towards you as you move the heart center forwards. Bring your chin in still a little bit towards the chest so that the neck's in line with the rest of the spine. And if it does feel comfortable to go down onto your elbows, you can always do that and draw the upper arms back against the shins. I feel like you're taking your breath into the back of the body, expanding the back of the rib cage with your breath. And come back up to spine vertical and free the back leg. Bring it over the top. In fact, let's just all do right leg. Right leg over the left thigh. So walk that left heel round so that your sit bone isn't on it, it's somewhere to the outside of the sit bone. And then try and bring the right sit bone down towards the floor. Interlace your fingers around the shin. And as you pull on the shin with the hands, with the elbows bent, and a feeling of lifting the heart center, broadening across the collarbones and sliding the skin of the back down. Lengthen the crown of the head for the ceiling. Keep an expansive inhale breath. Feel like you're trying to expand the whole of the ribcage space. And with your exhale breath, make a subtle drawing in of the navel and a cinching in of the side waist. So don't make it too aggressive, but just notice how that deliberate drawing the navel in and cinching in the side waist affects other muscle action in the body. And take a lean forwards over that leg as if you're trying to lengthen the right side rib cage over the leg. So you're hugging that leg in as much as you can. And keep the leg hugged in as you take that left elbow around. Bring the right hand down behind your back. And there, press into the sit bones and try and lift the chest and broaden the collarbone. So you will start to turn, but you're looking for that lifting action at the heart center, broadening of the collarbones first. And as you begin to turn, do it slowly, turning that over towards the right. Feel like you're trying to bring the left side rib cage round to lay over the top of that right thigh. So just a direction of movement. Breathing all the way up underneath the collarbones if you can on the inhale breath. And as you exhale, that subtle action of drawing the navel in and maybe cinching in the side waist. And not too aggressive, just subtle action. And to lengthen on your inhale and be a little bit more into the twist with the exhale. And release all of that slowly and come back to face forwards and swap the legs over. So you're taking the right leg under, left leg over, left foot to the outside of the right thigh, right heel towards the outside of the left sit bone. And again, trying to bring the left sit bone down towards the floor. It might not always happen. Interlace your fingers, press through the sit bones and lift and broaden the chest. Lengthen the crown of the head for the ceiling. And just for a moment, trying that exhale breath with the drawing in of the navel, a slight cinch of the side waist. Trying to combine that though without any tension in the body on your inhale breath. Full flow of the inhale breath. And take a little lean forwards again. Hug that thigh in towards the rib cage. Take the right arm round. And left hand down the back. And try and press into the sit bones and lift and broaden the chest again. And then with your exhale breath, that little cinch in of the side waist as you bring yourself slowly into the twist. So these movements of lengthening on the inhale and drawing round on the exhale, it doesn't mean that you're dramatically going to draw round each exhale breath. It's just this subtle feeling of movement, millimeter by millimeter. And slowly unravel that, come back to face to the center and unwrap the legs to come into Upper Konasana position with the legs 90-degree angle. And some action through the legs, extend through the heel, the ball of the foot, flex the toes back and feel like you're pressing your inner thighs down towards the floor. So we're activating these quadricep muscles. It's almost as if you're trying to lift your heels off the floor. If your heels do lift off the floor, by the way, you can always lift them off the floor. It's an option. And then take a little slide forwards with the hands at shoulder width distance, just again, very gently, not forcing it, just ending up where you end up without the shoulders starting to hunch and the upper back starting to round. And press your palms into the floor again and feel like you're pulling the floor towards you. Again, only making that action enough so that you can feel that you can draw the chest subtly through. You don't have to be too like, I'm really pressing my hands into the floor, really pulling them back. So feel like your breath is free to move wherever you end up, whatever position. And every so often, just reactivate the legs, press the inner thighs down towards the floor. And draw back up to spine vertical and extend your arms out to the sides again, reach out through the middle fingertips. As you press your inner thighs down, lift the heart and lift the crown of the head. Just a couple more breaths, expanding the upper chest with the inhale breath as you reach out. Maybe a subtle roll of the front heads of the shoulders back and the shoulder blades down the back. Then start to turning the center of the chest to face as much as you can towards the center of the left thigh. Bring the left hand down behind your back and bring the right hand over to the outside of your left leg. And press down through the inner thighs again, lift up through the crown of the head. And subtly, using the action of the hand pressing against the leg, the left hand into the floor, start to turn. Okay, and keep the inhales full. And as you exhale, you might again draw the navel in and slightly cinch in the sideways. So see if you can now make that side waist cinch more pronounced on the left than on the right. Okay, really subtle, subtle, subtle. Even just imagining that the left side waist is drawing in a little bit more. And lift the arms back up, bring them in line with each other. Extend away through the fingertips and then take a slow turn. Make it nice and slow. Back to the center. Once you're back to the center, press the inner thighs down, lift the crown of the head, reach out through the fingertips again, and take the breath all the way up underneath the collarbones. Then starting to turn the heart center so that you're turning it to, see if you can line it up as much as possible with the mid-right thigh. And take the left hand over and the right hand behind the back. So left hand to the outside of the right thigh. Repress the inner thighs down and lift the crown of the head again. Get that leg through the spine. And then action of the hands starting to help draw you round into the twist. Making the inhale breath as full as you can with the exhale breath, draw the navel in. Cinching the side waist and see if you can get that side waist cinch to happen more on the right than the left. And lifting the arms up, bringing them in line with each other and slowly rotate again. So we're coming back to the center and then continue. So you're taking it back over. So face the heart center over the left leg. Bring the left hand down behind the back and the right hand over to the outside of that leg. And then lift the left hand and wrap it around the back of the waist. So you might be able to bring it all the way around the waist. If you manage to get your fingertips on the inside of your right thigh, you can always do that. If not, it just stays there, wrapping around the back, palm facing out. And see if you can slide that right hand down the outside of your left leg. Go slow. There's no need to go too far. Now just press the hand slightly against the outside of the leg wherever you end up. If you are holding onto the foot, then you can always pull on the foot as you kick the foot into the hand. If you're doing that, try and draw the right shoulder blade down your back as you bring your forehead towards your left shin. If you've got the foot. Otherwise, keep lifting the chest so you're lifting the heart center. And slowly just stroke your way back up the leg, come back to spine vertical. Unwrap the arms, bring them out in line with each other, and slowly turn it back to the center. And then continue, going all the way the way. And bring the right hand down behind the back, left hand to the outside of the right thigh, and then lift the right hand up and wrap the arm around the back. And slowly slide that left hand down the outside of the right leg. And wherever it is, just pressing it into that leg as you turn. Keep trying to press the left inner thigh down towards the floor. And if you have got the foot, remember, press the foot into the fingers or the whole hand if you're there. And feel like you're drawing left shoulder blade down your back. Elbow might even bend. And you're bringing the forehead in towards that right shin so that the neck is in line with the rest of the spine. And slowly stroking that left hand back up the outside of the right leg as you come back up, and again extending your arms out to the side and then turning chest back to face forwards. Bring the hands down alongside the body. And then either taking them behind the back and holding the elbows. So you've got a couple of options here. Either you're going to hold the forearms if you can't get to the elbows if you can wrap around the lower part of the upper arm, or interlace the fingers and bring the palms together and press the knuckles down towards the floor. Any of those things are an option. So if you've got the interlaced fingers, press the knuckles down towards the floor and lift and broaden the chest. Keep your active legs. If you've got the forearms or the elbows, feel like you're trying to pull them apart and lift and broaden the chest. Your legs active. Flex the toes back. Really press the inner thighs down towards the floor. Slight squeeze of your shoulder blades towards each other, still letting the skin of the back descend. And then take a little lean forwards. Bring your chin in towards your chest as you do. Press the inner thighs down towards the floor. And if you've got the interlace of the fingers, now try and lift the arms up a little bit. So you're lifting the knuckles up as if you'll eventually take them up towards the ceiling when your forehead lands on the floor. Don't feel like you're trying to get your forehead on the floor though. And breathe again all the way up to the heart center. Feel like you're drawing that forwards a little bit, aiming it towards the floor a little bit forwards of where it is now. And bring the spine back up to vertical and release the arms and give your shoulders a little bit of a roll in each direction. So rolling them forwards, rolling them back a few times. And then bring your feet in so your feet are coming in together into cobbler's pose, Baddha Konasana. Bring your thumbs to the insteps or the hands onto the ankles if the insteps seem too far away. And then press into the sit bones and lift the heart center and broaden the collarbones again. I think you're seeing a bit of a theme going on here. Now, if you feel you can get the heels closer towards the pubic bone, then do that. Draw them in. You're lengthening up through the crown of the head, and then actively press the outer edges of the feet towards each other and try and bring the outer thighs down a little bit lower to the floor. So as you do that, it'll feel like you're trying to pick your feet up off the floor a little bit, keeping the lift of the chest, the length in the back of the neck. Take a few focused full breaths, expand the whole of the ribcage with the inhale. Just see what happens if you make that Uddiyana Bandha energy lock action of drawing your navel in and cinching in the side waist. Little experiments just to see how that impacts actions in the rest of the body. And release the feet and use your hands to bring the knees together so that you're coming into bent leg position. And bring your hands underneath the thighs, thumbs onto the back of the thighs. And press into the sit bones again and get that action of lifting the heart center, broaden the collarbones, release the skin of the back there. So as you make all of that action, you should automatically find that you're gripping the back of the legs a little bit more. And then rock back and come into bent knee Navasana with the hands on the back of the thighs. So use that action of pulling on the back of the thighs without drawing the knees towards the chest more to lift the heart and broaden the collarbones. And squeeze the legs towards each other and keep that lift of the heart and breadth of the collarbones as you release your hands. And keep lifting the chest on the inhale breath. Keeping the back of the neck long. And squeeze the inner thighs towards each other. And then crossing your legs, rock forwards and bring the hands to the floor. So just walk yourself forwards now. Feel like you're still trying to bring the heart forwards rather than letting the upper back round and the neck disappear. So only as far forwards as you can. And again, press the palms into the floor or elbows into the floor and feel like that you're pulling them towards you as the heart center and the top of the head moves forwards. And walk that, if you're on the elbows, come up off the elbows, so you're on the hands. Maybe walk the hands slightly back if you're in a really deep forward fold. And then round the back of it as you push the hands forwards and take the sit bones back towards the floor. And take some deep breaths into the back of the rib cage. Now with a little bit of momentum, so you might get a little swing of taking the sit bones back and then rocking the heart forwards. Rock up onto the knees if you can, and then separate the feet so that you're taking them back behind you and walk your knees back so that you come, excuse me, into a full all fours position. Just going to take a few cat-cow transitional rolls. Do it really slowly. Try and synchronize the movement with the breath. So as you exhale, draw the navel towards the spine, and then tucking the tailbone under, draw the chin in towards the chest. Press the floor away with the hands and shins. Then start to lift the sit bones towards the ceiling. Let the back dip and bring the chest forward. So that's inhale breath. So now to the rhythm of your own breath, exhaling, arching the back, navel draws in, press the floor away. Inhaling, sit bones lift, lower back dips, chin lifts, look forwards. And slowly moving through. Synchronicity with your own breath. And coming back to a spine neutral position, tuck your toes under. Push forwards through the hands, don't bend at the elbows, keep the arms strong and take the sit bones back towards your heels. Chin still towards the chest. Once you've found your maximum length, sit bones back towards the heels, press the palms down into the mat again and feel like you're trying to pull the front of the mat towards the back of the mat. Strong breaths out into the side ribs underneath that armpit area. And then pull yourself back slowly to that all fours position. Point your toes back. And keeping the arms strong, biceps forward, start to drop the hips down and forwards, but the chest stays lifted. So you're coming into a casual upward dog. Thighs are down, arms are straight and strong. Press through the mounds of the thumbs and lift and broaden across the chest. Just let the lower body be heavy. Naturally, just letting the hips sink down as much as they naturally want to. And starting slow movements. Start to rock the sit bones back, and as you go back, tuck the toes under. Push the hands forwards as you take the sit bones back towards the heels. Bring the chin in towards the chest. Now push forwards through the hands and push back towards the balls of the feet and hover your knees about an inch off the floor. One more push through the hands, start to lift the sit bones, knees lift about a foot off the floor, taking the rib cage back towards the back of the mat. And then slowly extending the heels down to whatever feels like the maximum downward dog available at the moment. Check that the outer edges of your feet are parallel to the sides of the mat and the heels not rolling in towards each other. And then tucking your tailbone under to start the movement. Use that action to roll yourself forwards into plank position. As you press the floor away with the mounds of the thumbs, broaden the space between the shoulder blades, press into the balls of the feet, engage the legs as you do and lengthen the tailbone towards the heels. Active buttock muscles. And start to lift the sit bones back up towards the ceiling and take yourself back into downward dog. And back down onto your knees and point your toes back. Bring the right foot forwards between your hands and come up onto your fingertips so you're framing that front foot. Then slide the left knee back a little bit more, walking back with the top of the foot. And then sink that left hip down towards the floor, the right sit bone down towards your heel just as much as the body allows. So not forcing it, just letting that happen. Back leg can relax a little bit and feel a little bit heavy. So now start to make that back leg active. Pressing into the top of the foot and shin. Feel like you're pulling the left shin forwards towards the front of the mat. You're pressing into your right heel. Feel like you're trying to pull that back towards the back of the mat. Keep a memory of that action and then lift the hands off the floor and stack your shoulders over the hips. Arms can just dangle alongside the torso. And then press into the top of the left shin and feel like you're pulling it forwards towards the front of the mat, the right foot pulling it back towards the back of the mat. And take your arms up over your head. If you can interlace your fingers and turn your palms to the ceiling and get a good extension through the arms without any pain, do that. And reactivate the legs. Left shin pulls forward, right shin pulls back. Feel like you're lifting the hip points. Lift your heart center. And as you stretch away through the palms, try and take the arms back towards the back of the room. Again, just a direction of movement. It might not happen. The arms might even be forwards, but you've got that sense of lifting the heart. Then release the hands down, bring the fingertips back to frame the foot and tuck your left toes under, lift your left knee off the floor. So you're coming into a lunge position. Press through the ball of your back foot, now the back leg firm. And then feeling the right rib cage lengthening along that right thigh, start to straighten your front leg. So keep the rib cage contact as long as you can as the front leg straightens. Whenever you need to lift the chest, then do. Now, if you need to put the hands on blocks to create some space for that front leg to straighten, you can. So now activate the front quadricep muscles, the front thigh muscles. Feel like you're trying to draw those up. Have a sense of trying to draw the front head of the right thigh bone back into the hip socket. Now with your exhale breaths, if you can draw the navel in and cinch in the side waist. And bend your front knee again and hop the left foot forwards a little bit towards the front of the mat, just a bit. And now turn the heel to the floor with the left toes towards the front left corner of the mat. So we're in warrior one, foot position. Re-lengthen the right rib cage over that bent leg. And then try and straighten that front leg with the rib cage in contact, just as much as you can. Whenever you need to, you can lift the chest, hands on blocks as you need to straighten the front leg. If you have got your palms fully on the floor, you might even press into the palms and feel like you're pulling the palms towards the back of the room as you lengthen the chest forwards and fold over the front leg. Remember to reactivate the quadriceps. Suck the thigh bone back into the hip socket wherever you are. If you've got your forehead on your shin at this point, you might press your forehead into the shin. Everybody just ground into the outer edge of your back foot a little bit more. Press away through the outer edge of the foot and feel like, without it moving, you're trying to draw your left big toe, so back foot toe, over towards the right side of the mat. No, I'm holding you here for ages. It's quite deliberate. All right, so bending your front knee again. Keep the outer edge of the back foot grounded and the heel down. Bend the front knee as low as you can go, and you might let the right side ribcage come to the inside of that thigh a little bit. Keep pressing into the outer edge of the back foot. Keep the front knee bent low, and then lift your arms up over the head. So we're coming into a classic warrior one position. If you can reground into the outer edge of the back foot and feel again, without it moving, that you're trying to turn that back big toe more over towards the right side of the mat. Now bend your front knee a little bit more. And you can interlace the fingers, or you can leave the hands at shoulder width distance. Press away through the palms, lift the hip points, lift the heart, and try and reach the arms back behind you. If you've got the interlaced fingers, at this point, keeping the fingers stuck together, feel like you're trying to pull the hands apart. Right, keep breathing deep, full breaths. And then release the hands. Bring the fingertips back to frame the foot. Start to And then turn the interlace, if you've got the interlace, so that you're turning the palms together, and release your index fingers. And now just take a little fold forwards over that front leg so that you're coming to one diagonal line all the way from the grounding heel through to your fingertips. So don't land the ribcage on the thigh this time. Just keep bending the front knee, press into the outer edge of the back foot, try and keep the heart lifted. And then release the hands, bring the hands down to the floor, turn the back foot into a lunge, and step that right leg back into downward dog. Just focus on your breath in downward dog, taking really deep inhales. And as you exhale, think about activating Padabandha, the foot energy lock, the lifting of the insteps, arch of the foot. Then come back down onto your knees. Point your toes back and step the left foot forwards between your hands. Come up onto the fingertips as you frame the foot, and you might walk that right knee back a little bit, sit that right hip bone down towards the foot. Left sit bone towards the heel, just as much as naturally happens without forcing it. And get some action through the back shin, top of foot. Feel like you're pressing into the top of the foot shin and pulling it forwards towards the front of the mat as you ground the front heel and feel like you're pulling it towards the back of the mat. And remembering that action, lift up, shoulders over the hips, and do it again. Pulling the right shin forwards, the left foot back. Taking your arms over your head, interlacing the fingers and turning the palms if that's possible. Pulling the right shin forwards, left foot back. Again, lift your hip points, lift the heart. And try and reach the arms back. Use your breath, deep, full breaths. And you can have that feeling that now, even though they're stuck together, you're trying to pull the hands apart. And release it down. Hands frame the foot, tuck the right toes under, lift the right knee off the floor. Press strongly through the ball of that back foot and get the back leg engaged. Lengthen the rib cage over that left leg and then try and straighten the leg with rib cage contact for as long as possible. Lifting off of the leg if you need to, using blocks if you need to then finally get the leg straight. Draw up on the left side quadriceps. Feel like you're sucking the top of the thigh bone in. And lengthen again over the leg, bring the forehead in towards the shin for a moment. And bend your front knee and hop the back foot slightly closer towards the front of the mat. Turn the heel to the floor, right toes towards the front right corner of the mat. Now go grounding into the outer edge of that foot. So feel that. You might even try and feel like you're trying to bring that right big toe over towards the left side of the mat and then straighten the front leg again. Slight feeling of squeezing the outer hips in towards each other, particularly the outer left hip over to the right. Draw up on the quadriceps again. Lift the heart center forwards, fold over the leg as much as you can. And if you have got your palms fully grounded on the floor, or you can get them grounded, you might even press them into the mat and feel like you're pulling them towards the back of the mat as you keep that front leg and that leg active. Pressing into the outer edge and heel of the back foot, trying to bring that right toe slightly over to the left. So that action, by the way, is just so that the right hip bone turns a little bit further forwards and the left hip bone draws back. That's what's going to bring the torso closer to the leg eventually. Then bending your front knee. Keep that back heel and outer edge of the foot grounded as you press back to that outer edge, just bending the knee as low as it'll go. And then lift your arms up over your head. Classic warrior one position. And then regrounding in the outer edge of the back foot as much as you can. Interlace the fingers as you want to and stretch the palms up. All the hands can be at shoulder width distance. So bending your front knee. Bend the front knee, but only from that extended back leg. So if the back knee starts to bend too much, You want to straighten out the front leg a little bit until you can get the action again to get the grounding in the back foot. Eventually, over time, knee gets lower. Now I'm holding you here for a long time. Just changing the pose we're holding for a long time. Keep reaching up, trying to lift the heart, deep full breath. And then turn the palms so the palms come together and release your index finger and fold forward. So as you fold forwards, keep pressing into the outer edge of the back foot. Look for a diagonal line. So you're not actually dumping down onto the front leg thigh. You're reaching from that back heel through to your fingertips as much as you can. So there's a lift of the heart center. Yeah, that's it. So, and then release the hands down towards the floor and step back into downward dog. Once you get back into downward dog, have a little cycle, little walk, extending one heel down and then the opposite heel down towards the floor. And walk your feet a little bit further back towards the back of the mat, so a little bit further away from the hands, just a bit. And tucking your tailbone under to start the move, rock forwards into plank again. And press through the nails of the thumbs, broaden the upper back, ground the balls of the feet firm, the legs lengthen the tailbone towards the heels as you draw the navel in. And then bring your knees down to the floor, point your toes back, and drop the hip bones down towards the floor, so you're again in a casual upward dog. Now ground through the mouths of the thumbs, lift and broaden the collarbones. And then bending the elbows backwards, upper arms alongside the torso, slowly peel down to the floor. Once you're down, bring your hands to the lower ribs and press into the tops of the feet, get the legs engaged, press your pubic bone down towards the floor. And then pushing forwards through the hands, slowly rise into high cobra. So elbows stay bent, thighs stay down. Drawing the elbows in as you lift and broaden the collarbones and the chest. And using that Uddiyana energy lock breathing with your exhale breath, draw your navel in, cinch in the sideways. Again, subtle, subtle action. And straighten the arms as you rock back up onto the knees into all fours position. And lift up onto your knees. And bring your hands to your hips. Knees are at hip width distance, no wider. And press into the shins, lengthen the tailbone towards the knees. You've got that slight lift of your hip points going on. But then think, I'm not going to lift the chest and go into a back bend. We're not going to do that. You're going to keep in one straight line from the knees to the front of the shoulders and take a little lean back. Don't let the ribs flare and come out. All of that is nicely held in. Keep pressing through the shins. Keep lengthening the tailbone towards the knees as if you're trying to lift those hip points. And rock yourself back a little bit more. And keep pressing through the shins. Dare yourself. The worst that's going to happen is that the sit bones will go back like that as you collapse out of the pose. All right, bring it back up to vertical. Take a breath. And then same thing again. Take a little lean backwards. One straight line from the front heads of the shoulders to the knees. Keep grounding through the shins. Lengthen the tailbone towards the knees. And then bring it back up. Rock it back forwards, hands to the floor. Back to that all fours position. And then keep going. Drop the hips down towards the floor. Chest lifts. So we're in that casual upward dog. Let the elbows bend back. Slowly come down. Chest, chin towards the floor. And take your arms out to the side of the body with the palms facing down. And press into the tops of the feet, pubic bone towards the floor. Lift the front heads of the shoulders, chest, chin with the palms on the floor. Press the palms into the floor, repress through the tops of the toes. And as you press the palms into the floor, feel like they're pulling them in a little bit towards the body. Always an opportunity here to practice that Uddiyana Bandha engagement with the exhale breath, navel in sideways cinch. Subtle as you like. And then bring chest chin down to the floor and bring the hands again to the lower ribs. And you press into the tops of the feet again, press into the mounds of the thumbs, feel like you're pushing the hands forwards to lever up into high cobra. And then keep going into upward dog. Hover the thighs if you can. Press into the tops of the feet and feel like you're trying to pull them forwards towards the front of the mat as you lift the chest. And then roll over the toes or walk over the feet. And slowly take yourself into downward dog. Once you're in downward dog, have another little walk in downward dog, bending one knee, extending the opposite heel down towards the floor. And lift the left leg up in the air behind you and float it forwards into lunge position. Once you're there, take a little turn. So we're coming into Prasarita Padottanasana, wide leg forward bend position. Wide legs, walking your hands forwards underneath your shoulders. So sit bones are aligned with your heels, basically, not pushing back towards the back of the room. That's the main thing that we're looking for. And press into your palms, spiral the biceps forwards. Ground through the ball of the foot, but lift the insteps. And if you can lift the insteps at the same time as trying to, without them actually moving, press into the outer edges of your heels and take them wider, try that. And start to walk the hands back between your feet. Only as far as the palms are fully grounded and active with the hands pressing into the floor. Broaden the upper back and draw the shoulder blades down as you press the hands into the floor. Keep reactivating the legs by lifting the insteps, maybe the quadriceps. You can press the inner thighs towards the back of the room as if you're trying to splay your buttocks apart. Not very elegant, I know. Walking the hands back forwards again. Bring your right hand right underneath your nose in the center. Now, active with the feet again, lift both insteps and press into that right hand as you start to turn the chest to the left and raise the left arm up. Now get a good firm action through that right hand and feel even like as you press it into the floor without it actually moving, that you're trying to turn it clockwise. You're lifting your insteps on both feet, try and press down through the base of the big toe. Each inhale breath, feel like you're stretching the left middle fingertip up for the ceiling. Yes. And then bring that left hand slowly down. Replace the right hand in the middle. Firm the hand into the floor, lift the instep, so get all of the action traveling up through the body. Raise that right arm. And then as you press into the left hand, you might feel like you're trying to turn it slightly anti-clockwise. You're reminding yourself to lift the insteps and ground through the base of the big toes. And each inhale breath, stretching the right middle fingertip for the ceiling. And bring the right hand back down to the floor. Hands back to shoulder width distance. Bring your heels in towards each other so the toes are out to the side. Bend the knees, sit your hips back, and lift the forearms up to the inner thighs. And so use the arms or the hands to press the thighs open. Press into the outer edges of your feet. Feel like you're trying to take the feet outwards away from each other, but you're not doing that. I hope no one ever does that. And then bringing your hands into prayer. That would be, I mean, I'm sure that there are some dancers who would master that move, but, if someone's feet ever went out from under them when I'm saying that, make sure they're firmly grounded. Bring the pubic bone forwards, draw the shoulder blades back, try and lengthen one straight line from the crown of the head to the tailbone, and then challenge yourself to sit an inch lower. Keep that for action of the feet though, grounding, pressing out. And then rock it back forwards. Bring the hands down to the floor and turn the heels out again so the outer edges of the feet are parallel to the short sides of the mat. And now take the hands out and first 2 fingers between big toe, second toe. Clamp your fingers to the floor, and as you pull up on the toes, draw the chest forward so there's still that feeling of breadth across the collarbones. And try and keep that length through the front of the torso as you bend the elbows and fold at the hip creases, bringing the head down towards the floor. And if the head grounds easily, the feet start to walk back in towards each other. Have the sense that you're trying to draw the shoulder blades down the back and lengthen the neck out of the shoulders like a turtle. Try lifting your insteps again. Try lifting the sit bones a little bit more. Maybe even try drawing up the front heads of the thigh bones into the hip sockets. And straighten the arms as you pull up on the toes, draw the chest forwards and take a breath. Then release the toes and start to walk round so that you're coming back to face the front of your mat in lunge position. All depends where you are as to which foot you've got forwards, which foot you've got back. So whatever the front foot is, bring that front arm inside the leg. So, sorry, same arm as the front leg, inside the leg, inside the foot. And bring your back knee down to the floor. Point the toes of that back leg back. And then walk the front foot out towards the side of the mat. So the heel's on the mat and the toes are off the mat. If you can come down onto your elbows at that point, you can, but it's also possible to stay up on the hands, so don't feel like the elbows are essential. Press into the left heel and feel like you're trying to push that heel in the direction of your toes. Just dropping the right hip down towards the floor. All right, so it looks like most of you have got elbows grounded. Ah, Sue. No, you haven't. It's all right. No, you have. Sorry, I've got 2 Sues. I forget that. Sue in blue. Okay. Right, so from here, tuck the back foot toes under and straighten that leg. And as we're mostly at least on one elbow, bring that front leg back into forearm plank. You might have to rock to one side to flick that front leg back and round so that you're coming into forearm plank. Yes. All right, so just take a firming action there through the elbows, through the balls of the feet. And then come down onto your belly. Point your toes back and come all the way down chest to the floor. Take your arms back behind you and hold the forearms, elbows, or interlace the fingers. And then stretch your knuckles back for the back of the room, lift the front heads of the shoulders, chest, chin. Press into the tops of your feet, get the legs to firm, pubic bone towards the floor as you try and lift the chest a little bit higher. And breathe all the way to the top of the lungs, all the way to the top of the chest to make it more buoyant. And then release it down. Chest, chin to the floor, release the hands. Bring the hands to the lower ribs, waist. Now that action of pressing into the tops of the toes, pubic bone down. And then lift into high cobra, so elbows are bent, thighs down. And then take it all the way to upward dog. Once you're there, try and pull the tops of the feet forwards to the front of the mat as you lift the heart. And then roll over the toes. And take it into downward dog. So now you've got to remember which leg you had in front last time. So we're about to go through that lizard sequence again with one foot forwards. Whichever foot was forwards last time, leave that grounded on the floor. And a new front leg, lifting it in the air behind you, float it forwards into lunge. And then bring the same arm as that front leg side to the inside of the foot. Bring your back knee down to the floor. point the toes back. Walk the front foot off to the side again to give you some space, and then come down onto the elbows only if you can. So the alternative to coming to your elbows, if you want to go halfway, is either to put the elbows on some blocks, so something a bit higher away from the floor, or to bend the elbows halfway and just push forwards through the hands. And now that front heel, press it down and push it in the direction of the toes. Just holding it there, making that action. And then back foot, tucking your toes under, lift the knee off the floor. So now if you've got blocks, you might have to get rid of the blocks. So if you find it difficult to maneuver the front leg, keeping the front arm at that same elbow on the floor, you want to take the weight in the other arm and move on to the hand of that same front leg side hand, so that you've got something to hold on to and press into the floor as you take the other foot back. Then you can come back onto the elbow. So back into forearm plank on the elbows. Really strong grounding through the balls of the feet. And then bring the belly down to the floor, point the toes back so that you're in Sphinx pose. Now press into the tops of the feet and pubic bone down, and then as you press into the elbows, feel like you're pulling the forearms back towards the back of the mat. Heart center lifting up and forwards. Steady breath. And then bring chest, chin down to the floor and take the arms back behind you again. Forearms or interlace of the fingers. Stretch the knuckles by the back wall, lift the chest. And then press into the tops of the toes, get firm legs, and then lift the feet. Trying to keep the legs straight, stretch the toes back, try and lift the heels for the ceiling as you press the pubic bone down. And then stretch the knuckles for the heels, slight squeeze of the shoulder blades together. Breathe all the way to the top of the lungs. As you exhale, supple navel action maybe. And then release all of that back down to the floor. Release the interlace of the arms, just let everything drop to the floor for a moment. You might even take a little rock of the hips from side to side. And full deep breath. And then bringing your hands again alongside the rib cage. And rise through high cobra. All the way to upward dog. And over the toes or over the feet into downward dog. Once you're in downward dog again, a little walk out, extending one heel down and the opposite heel down. And keeping the feet at hip width distance, start to walk your hands back towards your feet. And as you do, bend the knees and sit back as if you're sitting back into a chair. Lengthen the rib cage over the thighs with the knees bent. And then with your first two fingers, big toe, second, between big toe and second toe, bend the elbows out to the side and clamp the rib cage onto the thighs. Let your head be heavy so that the crown of the head just naturally reaches for the floor. Draw the shoulder blades actively down your back. Then keep all of that action, drawing the shoulder blades back as you try and lift the sit bones for the ceiling and straighten the legs as much as you can with rib cage contact. So try and keep that rib cage contact. Don't worry about legs being fully straight, but active arms, shoulder blades draw down, necks reaching out at the shoulder blades, crown of the head for the floor. If you have got straight legs or more or less straight legs, try drawing up on your quadriceps. Maybe pressing into the outer edge of the heels, feeling like you're trying to take the heels wider. And then pulling up on the toes, straighten your arms. So as you pull on the toes and straighten the arms, you might be able to straighten the legs more. And as you pull on the toes, feel like you're drawing the heart center forwards. Then release the toes and bring your hands to your hips and come up to standing. Once you're up to standing, take a little walk forwards to the front of your mat. Keep the feet at hip width distance. Now, with an inhale breath, take your arms up over your head, interlace your fingers, and palms facing each other. Release your index finger. And try and squeeze the palms all the way down to the wrist. So you're closing the gap at the heel of the hand. Press down into your feet, so strong grounding action through ball and heel. And then really reach up through the fingertips and lift the heart center. Now try and squeeze the palms, but you might even feel as you're squeezing the palms that you're trying to pull the hands apart. Your choice. Just breathe. And then reach up one more time. And thinking length more than depth, use the right hand to draw the left hand over to the right. So you've got good strong grounded feet and you're coming over into that lateral bend through the rib cage, but without twisting in any way to get depth. Both armpits facing towards me. And keep grounding the feet, maybe even lift the quadriceps. Try and use your inhale breath to find a little bit of space and your exhale breath to move deeper. And bring it back up to the center. And for a moment, take the arms down to the sides of the body, roll through the shoulders. A few times forwards and a few times back, just slowly. And then take your arms back up over the head, interlace the fingers. You might even move one along so it'll feel a little bit weird. As you move one along, ground through the feet, lift up through the fingertips, and then use the left hand to draw the right arm over into the curve. And grounding through the feet. Sense of lifting both quadriceps so that the front of the body doesn't start to collapse. And take it back up to the center and release the arms down. A little roll through the shoulders backwards. Roll through the shoulders forwards. And bring the hands into prayer position in front of the chest. So settle into that Tadasana position for a moment. Ground through the heels, the ball of the foot. Maybe lift the insteps. Lift and broaden the chest, release the shoulder blades down, chin in, reaching the crown of the head for the ceiling. And try and keep that sense of lightness and length as you lift the right knee up in front of the hip. Recreating that same elevation through the left side of the body. I slowly start to take that leg back behind you so that you're coming into warrior 3 position. So extend the leg as you go. And remembering that Shalabhasana, the locust pose we did balancing on the hips on the floor. We're stretching the toes back and we're trying to lift the heel for the ceiling, collarbones stay broad. May not feel like much of a back bend, but we're trying to replicate that back bend. And then slowly bring it knee back in front of the hip. Take a breath there. And bring that right foot down to the floor. And over to the other side, left knee lifts. Find that elevation through the left side of the body, a nice vertical line with relaxed shoulders. And then start to take the left leg back, slowly extending it as you go. And move slowly so that you can feel the subtle shifts and adjust for them as the center of gravity changes. The more reach you get through the lifted leg, the more the muscles will engage. That leg will become lighter to lift. Looking good, everybody. And with as much control as possible, bringing it back forwards again. Bring your knee back in front of the hip. Take a breath, bring the foot down to the floor. It's always the most difficult part, coming out of that pose in that way. All right, so now taking an inhale breath, raise your arms over the head, interlace your fingers. Release the index finger, reach away through that index finger. And take the right foot toes back behind you. So press into the tip of that big toe, firm through the left leg. Really stretch the middle fingertips up and then lift that back foot off the floor. Find that action, reach away through the toes as you now bring yourself back into warrior 3, but with the arms extended. Try and keep a focus on your breath. Try and keep one straight line from toes to fingertips. And slowly bring that back up to standing. For a moment, release the arms. Take a little roll through the shoulders. Nice little extra bit there, Sue. You didn't necessarily have to bring the knee up in front of the hip that time, but it doesn't do any harm. I'm quite happy for you to take it to the next level. All right, so inhaling, take your arms over the head, and again, you might move one finger along. Just because it keeps us on our toes. Release the index finger, but keep the thumbs crossed. And get a good stretch up first, then left toe behind you. Same thing, really stretch up through the ceiling as you ground that toe. Then lift the toe off the floor and keep your line. So you want to reach that left toe back as you lift the leg up. So you're using the lifting leg to tip the torso. The arms are trying to stay in line with the sides of the torso. Well done, everybody. This is really tough. So in Take It Easy Hatha, we're doing one of the tougher versions of Warrior 3, already not an easy pose, and then bringing it back up. Let's take a stretch, reach those fingertips up for a moment. So don't let the arms go yet. We're just going to do one more thing here. So press into the balls of the feet. Really stretch up through the fingertips. Feel like you're lifting your hip points. And then see if you can lean back a little bit. You can even let the head drop back between the arms. But keep grounding through the feet and reaching up to go back. Sense of lifting the heart to the ceiling. It might not be very much of a back bend, by the way. You'll still feel it strongly. Then come back to spine vertical and release your arms back down to the sides of the body for a moment. Step the feet out to hip width distance. Then bending at your knees, everything's nice and soft at the knees. Fold from the hip creases slowly forward. So let the knees be really bent. So we've just done some really strong action for the back muscles and we're slowly releasing them. Let the head drop forwards. Let the hands drop towards the floor. And then maybe take a subtle rock from side to side, straightening one knee a little bit. Certainly don't strain your legs. You want to keep the knees bent so that we take the release into the back muscles rather than the back of the legs. And just let the neck be nice and loose, the head be nice and heavy. And then bring your hands to the floor and walk the feet back at mat width distance. So you're coming into downward dog, but with wider legs. Outer edges of the feet parallel to the sides of the mat again. And just taking a little push forwards through the hands. See if you can lift your insteps. Focus on a few steady breaths. Let the navel draw back towards the spine with your exhale breath. And then walk the feet back in to hip width distance. Then come down onto your knees. Point your toes back and lift up onto the knees. So we're coming back into this position. Now you'll be pleased to know, although I don't know, it's like, is the straight through the front of the body the most difficult, or is the back bend version more difficult? Who's to say? Anyway, bring the hands onto the back of the pelvis for camel pose, Ustrasana. Find that change in the orientation of the pelvis. So this subtle change in the position of the pelvis also changes the position of the spine. We're lifting the hip points, lengthening the tailbone a little bit more towards the floor. Then draw your navel in and lift the heart center. Let's just get a little bit more length through the front of the body. Release the front edge of the shoulders back, so there's a slight squeezing in of the shoulder blades and the elbows down towards the floor. And then keeping the heart center lifted, let the head drop back. Only as long as the neck muscles allow it. Yeah, you're all looking good. So chin stays in, otherwise So if you have got your head dropping back, try and lose any tension through the scalene muscles. So these muscles at the front of the neck, often quite prominent, that kind of lead down onto the inner part of your shoulder blade, sorry, not shoulder blade, your clavicle, collarbone. See if you can just soften them while you breathe. And then lift yourself back up to vertical and bring your hands into prayer. Look down the tip of the nose towards the middle fingers. Have a breath. So then it's up to you whether you want to take one hand down towards your heel or not and extend through the other arm, or we're going to go back to that same position. So in terms of telling you what I'm talking about, so either that same position or what we're going to do is the same thing, but we're going to start with an arm up in the air. Then the hand that's on the back of the pelvis will drop down towards the heel. We're going to reach back behind us while one hand holds the heel. So it's up to you whether you go there or both hands stay on the back of the pelvis. All right, so whichever one. Let's start with the hands on the back of the pelvis, get the lift of the chest. Then if you're going for one arm down to the heel and one arm up, reach the right arm up, get a good extension through the arm. Drop that left hand from the back of the pelvis to your heel and grab the heel. Now look behind you or hold the chin in, whichever, and press into the shins. Really press down into the shins up to the knees, so that'll help bring the hip bones forwards. And as you inhale, really reach back. Then lift that left hand back up onto the back of the pelvis, bring the right hand down to the back of the pelvis, and everybody come back to vertical. Bring your hands into prayer for a moment. Take a few breaths. Then third time, hand onto the back of the pelvis. Right hand can be on the back of the pelvis only, and left arm up, whichever way you want to go. All right, so lift the heart center, get that orientation of the pelvis, lifting the hip points. And drop the right hand down onto the heel and ground through both shins again, looking back behind you. Reach that left arm back behind you. So it doesn't matter how deep you go, but you want that extension. The extension comes from the action of the grounding. So as you ground and then reach out with that grounding action, you will get more sensation. And then wherever you are, bring your other hand to the back of the pelvis. Come back to vertical, hands into prayer. But lengthening the back of the neck, chin comes in. Soften your gaze. Focus on your breath. And then sit the sit bones down onto your heels. As long as the knees are okay with that. If the knees are not okay with that, then you're always welcome to rock straight forwards to all fours. After you've had a couple of breaths on the heels, rock forwards to all fours anyway. So walk the all fours into a full all fours position. So your knees are just back from the hips. Wrists are just underneath the front heads of the shoulders. So we're going to stay in this neutral all fours position, except that we're going to ground the things in contact with the floor. So you're not going into cat or cow. Just press through the shins, press into the hands. Just feel like you're resisting the floor with that action, and now breathe. So we're deliberately holding the spine in neutral. As we've just given it a little bit of back bending action, just letting the back muscles get back to their normal length. And take your knees out to mat width distance and bring your toes together. And come down onto your elbows. So you're in all fours, elbows down. So now just rest onto the elbows with your sit bones stacked over your knees. You're just taking a few breaths here. But as you breathe, feel like you're broadening the whole of the rib cage. And then start to slowly take the sit bones back towards the heels, but move really slowly. So arms will start to lengthen, sit bones move back a bit, then the elbows will have to walk back a little bit to let you go further. So take your time. You might take a breath after every little shuffle, just see how the back feels, and gradually sink a little bit lower. You've always got the option, if the knees don't like it, of sticking a pillow between calves and back of the thighs. So just bear that in mind if you haven't got one handy at the moment. Forehead can also always come onto a block so that you're not having to force it down towards the foot. And now with each exhale breath, let the belly hollow out. So you're not being aggressive about activating Uddiyana Bandha, but as you fully exhale, navel will move back towards the spine anyway. And correspondingly, as you inhale, expand the belly and feel like you're trying to press the belly and side ribs out into your inner thighs. And rock a little bit forwards onto your elbows. And bring your left knee over to the right one so that you can then roll over onto the left side. It's coming over to the side with the knees bent and then continuing round onto the back of the body, soles of the feet on the floor with the knees bent. Sliding the shoulders up with the hips and with your feet. So take the arms out at shoulder height and maybe a little bit lower than shoulder height. So shoulder height or lower, pretty much on a line with each other. And then drop both of your knees down to the right. Try and leave the left shoulder blade on the floor and turn to look at your left thumb. Then picking up the right foot, so that's the bottom foot. Pick that up and put it over the outside of the left thigh just above the knee. So the weight of that foot is just drawing that left side of the body over into a light twist. Try and let both legs be heavy so that that can happen, and just direct a few breaths into the left outer hip, left side rib cage. And unhook the right foot, bring that foot to the floor and slowly rock your way, knees back to center, gaze back to center, and then slowly knees down to the left as you look towards the right. Then picking up the left foot, bottom foot, and placing it on the outside of that right thigh, just to provide a little bit of weight to bring it into that twist. Taking your breath a little bit into the right side waist outer hip. Then unhook the foot and slowly again, knees back up to the center. And then bringing the arms down a little bit lower than the height of the shoulders, maybe 45 degrees angle from the torso. You can Staying neutral, sorry, not neutral spine. Well, it is neutral spine, but constructive rest position. Walking the heels a little bit further away from the sit bones, knees can rest together or not. Or you can take it into a full classical Shavasana, legs extended, heels at mat width distance. Let your belly be soft as you breathe. And if it does serve you to press into the back of the head, lift the shoulder blades and draw the skin of the back down, re-pinning the skin of the upper back to the floor and then lengthening the neck a little out of the shoulders as you bring the chin in. And you can do that. Let the skin of the face and the jaws release. And take a few deep breaths through your nose, and with each exhale breath, a sense of softening, kind of merging the contact points of the back of the body into the floor. As the tissues of the inner mouth soften, cultivate a sense of spaciousness. Maybe a feeling of allowing the sinuses to open again as you breathe, as if taking in the scent of a flower. And as you draw your gaze inwards, allow that sense of spaciousness to envelop you. See if you can visualize those inhale breaths melting away the physical boundary of the body, allowing you to breathe yourself into infinite space. Each exhale breath surrendering to that space. Nothing to do for the next 2 minutes but breathe.